So, B, do you know we have merch now?
We do.
Is this not the best?
I come from a long line of horizontal women.
I made an entire line of merch that say, I come from a long line of horizontal women.
God, incredible.
www.sillageandsorcery.com. You too could get yourself a off-brand Stanley that says, I come from a long line of horizontal women.
Hey everybody, welcome to Sorcery and Sillage and Sorcery. I caught myself this time.
Yeah, because for the Chanel #5 episode, I had to just leave it in.
We're two witches who infuse our craft with the art of perfumery. I'm one of your hosts, B. Sampson of Venus Invictus, and I'm here with
Melissa Sifjardóttir of Sif Sniffs.
If you'd like to support us, the best way to do so is by checking out our own perfumes linked in the show notes, where we are committed to blending magic with mindful creation.
Is that what we need to put on the next Yeti? Or like fake Stanley?
Maybe. And I'm so excited about today's episode. So today we are stepping into the shadows of modern perfumery to talk about
We did talk about like beaver nets. So how much more shadowy could we get?
forever chemicals. That's pretty shadowy, I'd say.
Okay, that's fair.
But these are synthetic aroma molecules that linger not just on your skin, but in the environment and sometimes even our bodies, which is like, don't know how I feel about that. Today's episode, we're going to focus mainly on galaxolide, the king or queen of synthetic musk, along with other controversial chemicals like phthalates, and exploring their impact on human health and aquatic ecosystems. How did these molecules become so ubiquitous, and what does the science say about their long-term effects? And as witches who work with scent as a magical medium, how do we reconcile our love for perfume with the potential harm some of these ingredients may cause? So let's dive in.
My idea was to do galaxolide because I feel like people don't know about galaxolide being sketchy. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's a forever chemical. People are like, wait, what? But it's everywhere. Everywhere uses galaxolide. Like, detergent has galaxolide in it.
Yes. So first things first, what are forever chemicals in perfumery? And what do we mean when we say forever chemicals? So these are synthetic compounds that resist breaking down naturally, hence the name, of course. In perfumery, they're often used to make fragrances last longer, but persistence means that they accumulate in water systems, wildlife, and in human tissue. The most infamous in this category are polycyclic musks, like galaxolide and phthalates, which have been subject of growing scientific and regulatory scrutiny. Galaxolide was developed in the 60s by IFF, which is the International Flavor and Fragrances. They revolutionized perfumery by offering a clean, powdery, and long-lasting musk alternative to natural animal-derived musks. Unlike natural musk, which was expensive and ethically fraught, because it was harvested from deer glands, as we know, talking about musk so often.
Love how we're doing it as glands. It's straight up testicles.
I like glands better.
It's nuts, but
We're on the Silly Goose Express today, and I'm here for it. Galaxolide is cheap, right? It's a cheap aroma chemical. It's consistent and endlessly versatile for perfume making. It's become a staple, though, in laundry detergent, fabric softener, and of course, fine fragrance. So, why the hell does it last so long? Chemically speaking, galaxolide is a polycyclic musk, which is a part of a family of synthetic musks built around a ring-like structure. Because it is a ring-like structure, it's extremely stable. So it's not going to break down easily with water, heat, or light. When you spray a perfume with galaxolide in it, it binds to fabric and skin, releasing the scent slowly over the amount of days, right? So that's why, like, let's say you're wearing a perfume with galaxolide in it, you spray it on your sweater, you go back a week later, your sweater, you didn't wash it, still smells like galaxolide. Still smells musky, right? So crazy.
yeah.
The fact that, like, to me, any good perfume has a top, middle, and base, right? You go through an entire journey it'll last you maybe a full day, maybe 2 days. But anything more than that, I'm a little like, this doesn't seem normal.
That was also something that came up in the research for Glossier U because people
Mm.
were loving wearing Glossier U for 5 days. And I'm like, no one thinks that's a problem?
Yeah, it's not a little strange. So the same stability that we love for it, it's also a double-edged sword, right? Studies have found galaxolide in rivers, lakes, and even drinking water, where it accumulates in fish and other aquatic life. Yeah, talk about gross. A 2023 study showed that it's even hitched a ride to the Arctic ice caps. Isn't that
That's
insane?
crazy.
It's literally everywhere. And what's crazy is that it's been out since the 60s and we still don't know the impact of it and how it affects us.
Yeah, see that's why I only drink Arizona Arnold Palmer, man. I don't drink water.
Man, since it doesn't degrade quickly, though, it can disrupt ecosystems, affecting hormone systems and aquatic organisms. Even more alarming, though, galaxolide's been detected in human breast milk and fat tissue, suggesting that it bioaccumulates in our bodies over time. So we're just storing it.
Oh yeah, because that's probably healthy.
What does it do to us? We still don't know. We don't know the risk of it yet. Studies are being done constantly. Like the 2020s, you research like studies about polycyclic musk and their impact on health. There are so many papers, so many studies done of people being like, we're trying to figure it out, but we still don't know. And so while health risks are still being studied, the EU is currently reviewing whether to label it as a substance of very high concern, a move that could restrict its use, which could be a good thing, especially since synthetic musks have all been linked usually to endocrine disruption, specifically in animal case studies. So, if you've ever used a perfume, I have a question. If you've ever used a perfume that lasted days, did you ever stop to think about why it lasted so long? Does knowing that some of these molecules might stay in your body change how you feel about them?
With Glossier U, after a while, I just kind of got bored of it. I think that's why I stopped wearing it. Like, it's great when things last forever, but maybe I want to not smell like it constantly. This is just boring after a while.
I think for me, after learning about how much our body can store like these materials, and we don't really know the impact that it has having on our health as human beings, it is alarming, honestly. And really makes me second guess like even working with the material because I do have galaxolite in a few of my perfumes. I do have it at very small amounts, but like, I mean, I don't know. I think what I'm going to do moving forward is cycle it out for like a new blend. Maybe I'll use like an ISOE Super Sandalwood combo to formulate my own accord that is similar to galaxolide until something new is developed. It's one of the fragrance houses. One of them started a patent in 2023 which is like a green alternative to galaxolide that smells similar, but they haven't released it yet. So something new is coming out that is going to replace it eventually. Thank God that they're working on that. But yeah, it just has such a like iconic smell. That being said, let's talk a little bit about phthalates, the plasticizers that are hiding in everything.
Yeah, like receipts. So CVS keeps like loading you up with phthalates.
And it's like a thermal type of paper too, isn't it? Crazy. Galaxolide isn't, let's be clear, the only forever chemical in perfumery. Phthalates are another huge issue. They're often used as solvents or fixatives. They don't technically have much of a scent. They just help bind to everything together, which is wild. You could get that effect with other things like resins or other musks that are not super harmful. You don't need phthalates. But the issue is that phthalates are found in a lot of fragrance oil. But the most notorious of the phthalates are diethyl phthalate, also known as DEP, which has been flagged for potential hormone disruption and links to developmental issues in animal studies, which is super scary. Although the FDA hasn't banned it in fragrances, it is classified safe in small doses. The EU, though, has restricted certain phthalates in cosmetics, and advocacy groups like the Environmental Working Group, EWG for short, urges caution when using any products that contain phthalates. The real kicker, though, is that fragrance formulas, for those that don't know, are considered trade secrets. So companies aren't required to disclose phthalates on labels. They're just lumped under fragrance. The lack of transparency, we've talked about this before with like other interviewers with other perfumers, it makes it hard for consumers to know what they're putting on their skin. Honestly, I want to know how you feel about perfume brands that aren't required to disclose all of their ingredients. How do you feel about transparency, and should regulators demand more transparency? Because I feel like it's a tough line to toe, because we want to keep our formulas to ourselves, right? We don't want other people like remaking our perfumes, but at the same time, we want to be as transparent as we can.
I think that's why I like working fairs as much as I do, because if someone comes up to me at a fair and says like, "Oh, are phthalates in this perfume?" I could say, "Look, there's not phthalates in this perfume. I don't really work with them," and go from there. But I personally, knowing what I know about dupes and knowing all of the time and effort and money that goes into developing my fragrances, I feel very, very strongly about like disclosing everything. I do feel really weird giving what is essentially my intellectual property,
Mm.
right? Like, even though, granted, it doesn't have exact percentages, but
Or
you can kind of
levels,
figure it
right?
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, or levels, but like,
If you have all of the ingredients, though, there's only so many like combinations of levels that you could do until you get it.
correct, right? So that is something that I struggle with, because like I understand the desire to be transparent, but I also am like, but this is my work. Like, this is my babies. Please don't take this from me.
Yeah.
And I do think for both of us, we create things that aren't necessarily in the retail market, right?
Yeah.
And we are small perfumers. It does not take a lot for Cody to, to online order. I wouldn't know. And then having them recreate everything and sell it for $200, $300 a bottle, which is what we know kind of like is common in the fragrance industry now.
Yeah.
And that to me would really suck, right? So there is this line, because you can't trademark perfumes, right? Like, I cannot trademark the recipe as a small perfumer. That can get really tricky really quick. Like, you want to be honest, but you also realize that you're going against these billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar company behemoths.
True. Yeah. It's a tough line to toe. I think the happy medium that I found is only like not giving away my full ingredients list, but only specifically following the EU standards of just listing the known allergens so people can make informed consent about allergens when it comes to their body.
Yeah, that works.
I think that's the medium that I found that works for me, but I don't know. Still, it's like, well, yeah, like you know that these ingredients are in it. Like, who's to say you couldn't just piece together? Because I do list the notes on the perfume. You couldn't just piece together what the rest of it is. So it sucks. It sucks being a small artist, a small independent maker, especially in a time where everyone is just trying to take advantage of everyone else. It's terrible, really.
And I think of that too, like with AI and like visual
True.
artists, since we're olfactory artists, right? Like, there's so much out there where people are just like taking parts and like creating something different that I see when it comes to us as perfumers, the what's happening to visual artists with AI
Mm,
can also happen to us with these freaking behemoth companies,
yeah.
right? That already have the ingredients. They're already getting patents on shit that we don't have access to, right? And creating these fragrances that we will not be able to because we don't have those ingredients.
I'm saying,
It
like,
gets real tricky.
right. Like, yeah, I'm excited for this Galaxolite alternative to eventually come out, but who knows? Maybe it'll be an extra 10 years before we can get our hands on it because we're not a huge company or corporation.
Exactly. And like, we don't want to use galaxolide because we know the risks, because we listened to this podcast and did the research, but we don't want to use it. But at the same time, like, we can't not use it for 15, 20 years whenever it becomes accessible for independent perfumers. People are getting some spicy takes today from us.
They are, and I'm okay with it. If you're listening to us, you like us. So if it's your first episode listening to us, well, welcome, bitch.
But I do think that's like a larger kind of discussion that needs to exist for independent perfumers. It's like, how comfortable do you feel with letting your intellectual property be out there?
I feel like this is very relevant to the conversation, but I want to shed some light on some other problematic aroma chemicals. The glycolide and phthalates are just the tip of the iceberg, y'all. Here's a few other synthetic fragrance ingredients under scrutiny at the moment. We have ethylene brassylate. It's a synthetic musk with similar persistence issues found in water systems. We have lyolol, also known as butylphenyl methylpropanol, and that has been banned in the EU since 2022 due to reproductive toxicity. It's also currently banned in the US. Thank God. I think it was finally banned in 2024. And the last one that I'm going to mention is OTNE. The chemical name is octahydrotetramethyl acetone. It's another persistent polycyclic musk, which is currently accumulating in aquatic life, which fucking sucks. I want to keep our oceans clean. What's wild is that many of these chemicals are still used in perfumes and sold in the US, though, where regulations lag behind Europe's stricter standards. That's why, like, for me, like, I just want to follow what Europe has going on when it comes to allergens and, like, what needs to be, like, put on the label. The witches, though, we know scent is power, right? It carries intention, it carries memory, it carries energy. But when our perfumes contain ingredients that might harm ecosystems, our bodies, where does that leave us? How do we avoid synthetics? Do we avoid synthetics altogether? Do we seek out brands committed to safer alternatives? Thankfully, some perfumers out here in these streets are pushing for green chemistry, synthetics designed to break down safely, in organizations, I will say, like IFRA, the International Fragrance Regulation Association, now restrict and ban some of the worst offenders. But the industry still has a long way to go. Let me ask you, would you give up your favorite long-lasting perfume if you knew it contained certain forever chemicals? Or do you think that, like, the dose makes the poison?
I think I'd probably give it up, but also I'm surrounded in perfume, so like having one go away is probably like not the end of the world for me.
Yeah.
And also I'm surrounded by perfume kind of constantly, so
Yeah.
it wouldn't be like a massive loss.
See, that has been my take up until this point, that the dose decides the toxicity. But honestly, once someone buys your product, what they do with it is their business, right? Like, I tell people, like, 1 to 2 sprays. And if I'm putting such a minimal amount of galaxolide or another forever chemical in the perfume, like a polycyclic musk, who knows? Maybe they're going home and just, because I have seen people on TikTok do that with their perfumes. And I'm like, what are we doing?
But you clearly did not grow up in an Italian American family because that's what we all do. Okay.
Yeah.
That's how shit was learned. Okay. It's a minimum of like at least six. Okay.
Like, I shit you not, I wasn't there for it, and thank God, because I would have freaked out on the person. So, for those of you that don't know, me and my partner Dakota used to co-run a witchy bookstore in Brooklyn, and for a while I was selling my perfumes there. And one day Dakota is working and they turn around as this person is spraying one of my perfumes into their mouth. And they had a moment, they were like, oh, and Dakota was like, did you just spray that into your mouth? They were like, yeah, I don't know why. I thought it was like a breath thing. Yeah,
No.
people are insane. People are insane.
I've gotten it. I've gotten my fragrances in my mouth, but that's because I'm like making testers at a fair. At the end of a
Intentionally,
fair, I'm
yes,
covered.
of
Yeah.
course. Right. I need to shower after every market. I'm like, I'm covered in scent. Ugh, I need to, like, cleanse. Closing thoughts, for me, anyways. The world of synthetic perfumery is a paradox. It gives us incredible scents that would be impossible with naturals alone, but at a potential cost to our health and the planet. As consumers, the best we can do is to stay informed and demand transparency and support brands that prioritize safety without sacrificing artistry. Now, with all that in mind about galaxolide and forever chemicals, I'm going to hand things over to my lovely co host, who's going to take us on a deep dive into a cult favorite perfume that contains galaxolide.
I'm gonna try really hard not to have a very bad British accent the entire episode because we're going across the pond. See, I already started. I gotta take it back. So, question: you're in the mall. It's like you're younger than me, so I feel this might date me a little bit. You are smelling something. It smells a little orangey. What store is it coming from?
Orangey.
Yeah, orangey.
Wait, is it the Body Shop?
Yes. So
Hey.
today we're doing the Body Shop. That was Satsuma. I worked for the Body Shop for a while when I was in college. So I got some like insider shit in terms of the Body Shop. Today we are doing White Musk, which was pretty much all Galaxolide.
Was it really?
There were some other ingredients, but for the most part, it's all Galaxolide. And we'll talk about, it did get reformulated. We'll talk about why it got reformulated.
Yes.
And we'll get into it. I know. And it's not because it's a forever chemical, actually. That's not why they reformulated it.
Ooh, tell me everything.
So, Anita Perilli was born in West Sussex in the UK. So, if you know anything about the Body Shop, we're talking about ethical consumerism, equality, and environmentalism. What do you think her sun sign is? And she is a stellium. She's got 5 planets in the same sign.
I would say, is she an Aquarius?
That is a great guess. She is a Libra. And the only reason I looked up her chart is because her birthday is October 23rd. So she's kind of like right on that border. But she is a Libra. But we're talking cosmetics, right? So we're working in the beauty industry, but also doing it ethically and equitably. Big Libra energy.
Very Venusian.
Very Venusian. Libra is ruled by Venus. So all of these things kind of go together. 1976, she opens up her first shop in Brighton, which is on the coast of the UK. According to her own autobiography, her goal is to make an income while her husband's traveling. Her first goals when she opens up the business is to create things as ethically as possible. So she wants good sourcing, cruelty-free, and natural ingredients. One of the things that I think is fucking banana story is she goes to the local hospital and gets unused excess urine containers and uses them for her products.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, they're sterile. Like, they haven't had pee in them.
That's a choice.
It is a choice. But if we're looking at, like, we want to make everything sustainably,
there you go.
And we don't want to make more plastic, what's already existing, I think, is an alternative. Also, all of the labels are handwritten. So there's no big marketing. She handwrites everything. And she starts with 25 products. At the end of the 70s, Anita's husband says that we should franchise. And by 1984, there's 138 stores, 87 of which are franchises.
Wow.
So that's not even 10 years after launching.
That's wild. The success. Jesus.
And in 1984, they're publicly traded. So they debut on the London Stock Exchange.
That's shocking to hear. Yeah.
I also think if we're looking at the 70s, that's when people are looking to be a little bit more environmentally friendly.
Yeah.
And that's something that the Body Shop kind of started from the get-go. White Musk is launched in 81. So the goal for it is to be cruelty-free and ethical. So they launch it with Galaxolide so that they are not using natural musks and hurting deer. And I remember when I worked for the Body Shop, it was like, well, yes, we use synthetics, but it's because we are protecting the deer. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, at this time, Jovan's musk was hugely popular. So they were trying to create a more ethical alternative to Jovan's musk. I couldn't find the original formula anywhere. One of the things I think is interesting is that the marketing behind the Body Shop's White Musk is like, oh, well, we're the vegetarian alternative. And I'm like, well, what the hell was in Jovan's musk?
I know.
Outside of like actual deer testicles or glands, if we're B. Also, Jovan's musk has historically been a drugstore level, like not very expensive fragrance. So if they're using natural deer glands, like you're not going to be able to be at a $20 for 3 ounces price point. So I have some questions
Mm.
regarding like that timeline, and because we don't, once again, trade secrets, so we don't have recipes, we don't 100% know what's going on. I did find some really awesome reviews from the 70s for Jovan Musk, and I have some other ones for White Musk, so I'm going to send you this one for Jovan's Musk.
Yay, fun. The worst scent I've ever smelled in my entire life. Reminds me of dirty diapers that belong to a sick baby with diarrhea. The sick baby.
Now, what I think is interesting is usually when we record these episodes, what you have in your research aligns with what my research says. I'm going to send you this review of the Body Shop's White Musk and see if you could see where it changes from what we just talked about with Forever Chemicals.
Okay. The magic of this fragrance, I owned this perfume oil, is that it manages to be clean, sexy, provocative, animalic, fresh, soft, seductive, nostalgic, and modern all at the same time. But the longevity was always poor.
You're making a face. Why are we making a face, babe?
What's up with the longevity if there's galaxolide in it?
Correct. And that's something I came across repeatedly, is that White Musk from the Body Shop does not last. And I also remember that when I worked for the Body Shop, they would talk about like layering your fragrance. So they always said like put the fragrance oil on because that lasts the longest, and then put on an EDT, and then put on the body mist, and then just keep the body mist with you in your purse, and then refresh it throughout the day. But I thought that that was more of like a marketing.
Yeah, that's like a buy 3 products instead of 1.
Correct, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of looked at it. But now seeing a lot of reviews talking about how White Musk doesn't last, I find that just very interesting, knowing that it has these chemicals that last forever.
So wild. I wonder, that makes my head spin. I'm like, what were the concentrations of galaxolide? Was galaxolide like originally in one batch, but then they had like some manufacturing issues, so then it wasn't in like a few of the batches for a few years? Like, I need to know.
And I remember it being like a beast mode. So in 1987, which in my opinion is the best year ever.
I wonder why.
No reason. No reason. The Body Shop settles with an American pair in Berkeley who also had a store called The Body Shop. They settled to the tune of $3.5 million just to get the name rights to The Body Shop and have more franchises within the US.
Wow.
Anita starts advocating her company as business as a source for good. If you go to the Body Shop's website today, under About Us, they still have business as a source for good, and they have like a little blurb underneath it. And this is where things start getting a little sketchy. They start a campaign called Trade Not Aid, which emphasizes particularly for women in the global south being paid for materials at market prices. The goal was not just sending money to impoverished areas for high-value raw materials, but in agreeing in equitable exchange. This makes me feel very uncomfortable because I like the idea of fair trade, but you're going into the global south. How much could you possibly be engaging in fair trade? And like, who's making these judgments?
Listen, I feel that so much. I occasionally teach a class about crystal magic, and like that is a huge thing when it comes to ethical sourcing. Okay, any brand can say that they're ethically sourcing, but where is the proof? Where are the receipts? You don't have them. You just say that it's ethical sourcing.
Yeah. In one of Anita's obituaries, it said the company displayed claims to pay fair prices to the third world poor, but covered less than a fraction of 1% of its turnover. Yeah. But on the flip side, the Body Shop did do audits with outside agencies for their ethical trade practices, and they always pass them. They also become a B Corp in 2019. So, like, there is this element of, like, we may be engaging in fair trade, but to what level are we engaging in fair trade? I think that's something that comes up frequently in the conversations about coffee and...
Yeah.
stuff like that. But so many of the Body Shop's ingredients, from cocoa butter to shea butter to palm oil, all of them kind of are from the global south. And how ethical could they possibly be? In 1994, the Body Shop launches the Body Shop at Home, which is the multi-level marketing side of the business.
Oh, no, not the MLM.
Yeah. So we're making a face. So what do you know about MLMs? And why are we making the face?
Multi-level marketing scheme. It's a scheme. It's a scheme to make money over other people. The whole thing behind MLMs is that you become a recruiter to recruit other people. That's part of your goal so that they can start paying for your stuff and then they have to do the same thing. Right. So it's building a pyramid that goes upwards. And then at the top, you have the people that created the whole damn thing and they're making the most of it.
And 99% of all people in MLMs don't make a single penny.
They don't make anything. It's so sad. And a lot of times I feel so bad for a lot of people that are in MLMs because a lot of times they're doing it out of desperation to figure out how to make money to live. But the thing is, they're being taken advantage of and they don't understand that.
If we ever do an episode on Avon perfume, but that was a lot of where Avon kind of started, is women couldn't have their own bank accounts. They couldn't make their own money. They had to be the primary caregivers for children. But with the Avon, you could like host a party on a Saturday, get a babysitter, get your friends together. And that's kind of where MLMs kind of found their niche when it comes to people like stay-at-home mom or military spouses and things like that,
People with disabilities, like, yeah.
who are for one reason or another are outside of the traditional economy and need some way to make an income.
Yeah.
When I worked at the Body Shop, we would have people come in all the time who were Body Shop at Home reps who were buying things in store because they needed to fulfill an order and it wasn't going to get shipped to them in time. And I was always just like,
How are you making any money then?
yeah, like you're not making money.
You know what's unfortunate is shit like this is still happening today.
In 1997, Anita is very aware of how bodies are being portrayed in the beauty industry and the rising rates of anorexia and bulimia. So the Body Shop starts multiple campaigns addressing body image. That is still an ethical principle that they still keep currently, is doing a lot of stuff for body image.
Mm-hmm.
One of my personal favorite campaigns, which came out just before I started working for the Body Shop, was there's 4 billion women in the world, only 8 look like supermodels.
Oh, damn, that's good.
Yeah, they also had like a bunch of naked Barbies, like in a row.
Love that.
So I thought that that was a pretty good one. Also in the 90s, the Body Shop is proving to be a mall staple. My favorite quote is from The Guardian.
I'd wager that the Body Shop still raises a feeling of nostalgia amongst many women of a certain age. For me, being a teenager in Hull in the mid-90s, visiting the Body Shop was a standard part of most Saturday afternoons. Mine was a generation defined by whether they wore Dewberry or they were a white Musk girl.
So I feel like for Britain, the Body Shop was to Americans what Bath and Body Works was. Whereas like that iconic, you know who you're dealing with based off of whether or not they smell like cucumber melon.
Yep.
Or warm vanilla sugar or love spell. This is also when they start doing the oils where they put it in a oil burner with a little tea light and then it makes basically from 10 stores down smell like Satsuma. It was always Satsuma. I don't know why it was always Satsuma.
That's so crazy. I feel like the whole like oil warmers and fragrance is like crazy to me. I have older people coming up to me asking me if they can set my perfume oils on fire. And I'm like, please don't do that. Don't do that. That's a bad idea.
So, since we're talking about fragrance oils, look who's got a little tiny Body Shop fragrance oil.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this is straight up from like 2006. 'Cause that's when I was
Incredible.
working for the body shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have this. It is currently burning in my oil burner. I remember when we worked there, it was very specifically like, do not put this anywhere near your body. Don't have it touch your body. And
Well,
they were
there's
like
it's different
hardcore.
concentrate levels, so it's got to be like not skin safe at all.
Yeah, and I remember them being like, don't have it go on your pillow. This is not a linen spray. This is basically bad for you. This is nostalgia in a bottle right here for me. They also made alliances with Greenpeace and Amnesty International. So
Okay.
from what I could see, that was them donating to charity. I don't want to shit on the body shop too much. Once again, they paid my bills for a hot minute.
Yeah.
But I do think, like, when we talk about the body shop, it can get a little nuanced because we don't want to do animal testing. So we have galaxolide, which then is a forever chemical, which is harming the water rays, right? So we kind of need to look at this with a fine tooth comb.
Also, I think like the time period is important because I can't imagine like the fact that we still don't know what it's doing to our bodies and our ecosystems is a signifier of an issue of like not enough research being backed behind figuring out what polycyclic musks are doing to the environment. I can't imagine that they had all of the research papers and studies on it being a forever chemical at the time.
In 2003, Anita is made a dame. When I worked for the body shop, we always had to call her Dame Anita, which is not healthy at all. So in March of 2006, which is right before I started working for the body shop, it was sold to L'Oreal for 652.3 million pounds, of which the Roddick's personally made 130 million pounds.
Whoa.
The other thing I think is interesting, because this is around when I came into the body shop as a company, one of the things that was constantly told to me by management was Dame Anita wouldn't sell the company unless there was an agreement to continue the ethical principles. Because L'Oreal, who bought the company, sells in China, which does animal testing.
They do. That is a big source of contention.
L'Oreal, the company, says that it stopped doing animal testing in the 80s. But if you're selling in China, which is also
Right.
a huge market, China does require animal testing for any products made outside of China that are being sold to Chinese citizens. It's one of those things that, like, I want to give Anita and the body shop the benefit of the doubt. In 2007, Dame Anita, which is still in my notes as Dame Anita because I'm not going to change that at any point in time.
Love
She
that.
passes away from a brain hemorrhage. 2009, the body shop comes under a relatively big scandal. So they have a third-party supplier of palm oil in Colombia called Dabon. I'm going to pretend that I pronounced that correctly, which forcibly evicted 123 families from their land in order to supply palm oil for companies like the Body Shop. When the scandal came out, the Body Shop denied that they purchased palm oil from this particular element of their supplier. Like, they agreed that they were getting it from Dabon, but not from this particular piece of land, and also dropped them from the company as a supplier, but later on. In 2017, L'Oreal sells the body shop to Natura, which is a Brazilian company, for 1 billion euro. At the time, the company has 3,200 stores, 17,000 employees, and is operating in 66 countries.
Holy fuck.
B Corp certification is in 2019, but this is where things get fucking bananas, and also involved a lot of me asking Chris some weird questions.
Okay.
Chris is my husband's name, and he works in finance and is a lawyer, so I had to ask a lot of legal financial questions. So in November of 2023, the month is going to be real important here. Natura sells the body shop to Aurelius, which is a German private equity firm. By February 15th of 2024, so we're talking 3-4 months later,
Yeah.
they're declaring bankruptcy in England. On February 16th, they close all of their German stores. March 1st, Body Shop Canada closes. And on March 10th, the Body Shop USA ceases operations. So it went from being valued around 200 million euro.
Right.
When they sold it in 2023 to then ceasing operations in almost every country.
That's really weird. So quickly after it being acquired?
From what I have read from different financial articles, was that it seems that Aurelius didn't do its complete due diligence and that it thought it was getting like a huge steal on getting the Body Shop at this price. But what ended up happening is once they bought it from Natura, it was really, really hurting in a way that the private equity firm didn't know.
Got it.
The Body Shop had past due loans that now Aurelius was responsible for paying.
Right.
So that's why there was a lot of everything going out of business. The Body Shop currently does not do business in the US because people are so desperate to get stuff like white musk, which they wore throughout their adolescence and was probably a signature scent for them. And now you can't buy it in the US, you can't buy it in Canada. There's limited business in England. So yeah, it went from 2017 had so many stores and was in all of these countries to 2024 they're shutting down everything.
What a journey. Wow.
I know, right?
I'm shook. I had no clue.
I feel like this
This is
deep
every
dive.
time. Well, what a fun episode. I learned so much today.
Same. Sillage and Sorcery is produced by B. Sampson and Melissa Sifjardóttir. Research conducted by B. Sampson and Melissa Sifjardóttir. Logo design was by B. Sampson, edited poorly by Melissa Sifjardóttir. There's links to everything in the show notes, as well as checking out our website, www.sillageandsorcery.com, for merch, links to our perfume brands, and just general awesomeness. Anyway, I love you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. I purchased some of the Body Shop's white musk, and I had to import it. I looked at because it has the price on it, and I was like, "What is this unit of currency?" And I had to ask my husband, "What the fuck is this?" And I didn't know when I ordered it that it was importing it from India until it came in and it was in Indian packaging. I was just like, "Oh, let's see if I can get it." And I was like,
Surprise!
"Fuck is it rupees?"